Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And that's right, you read the title. I am finally reviewing another really good TV show, animated TV show, I should say, that was on the good old days of Disney Channel. And, when we had some really good animated shows and such, but yeah. So, this being one of my top jams on Disney Channel, and along with a bunch of others, So that's right, I am finally reviewing the Lilo and Stitch TV series. Yes, the Lilo and Stitch TV series. Again, this was one of my top jams. I have so many fond memories when watching this show, and also, I of course remember, most notably, when those crossovers happened. We had 4 crossovers where Lilo and Stitch crossed paths with other characters, which, they came from other Disney animated TV shows, and all the experiments that Lilo and Stitch have to find their rightful place in Ohana, all while trying to get to them before, say, Captain Gantu and Dr. Hamsterville. And all the shenanigans and craziness that happens, where they live, and, when it comes to, like, say, their aunt and uncle, Jumba, Pleakley, or, whatever's going on with Nani, David, and even when, sometimes also, like, getting tangled with, say, Myrtle, But, just overall, because with what Lilo and Stitch has to offer, and the fact that, this would be, what goes on in the show started with the pilot, of course, being Stitch the movie. The beginning of the fact that, there's more than Stitch, more illegal genetic experiments from Dr. Jumba Jukipa, and when accidentally they're let loose all over the island, and it's up to Lilo and Stitch to find and collect all of the experiments, and again, to find the rightful place, to, have them not be, evil and crazy, destructive, and just, be a different, changeable experiment. And, find their rightful place in Ohana. The right place that they belong. Because looking back at this, and having rewatched some episodes of this series, I mean, of course, it's still amazing. And the fact that, it's Lilo and Stitch. Like I said, the memories I have watching the show on Disney Channel, and of course, the chance to rewatch it, most notably on Disney Plus, and this especially helps, bring a new generation of fans of Lilo and Stitch, and the opportunity to watch this show, right? Everything from beginning to end, and, because the show itself, like, it didn't really end off like, what I'm saying, like a series finale or anything, because we had Leroy and Stitch for that, Leroy and Stitch. Like, here's the thing, because Stitch the movie was the start / beginning for the show. Leroy and Stitch was the send-off, the grand finale of the franchise, which, of course, all began with the first Lilo and Stitch film in 2002. And who'd have thought, because for a lot of people who loved and enjoyed Lilo and Stitch, look what was to come next year after the first film. The Stitch the movie serving as the pilot for the series, and then when the series would begin. And in between the series, we got, say, Lilo and Stitch 2, basically, which of course means Stitch has a glitch, and then a year after Stitch has a glitch, and when the show came to an end, we had the final installment, which being the finale to all of Lilo and Stitch, which of course being Leroy and Stitch, but on the show itself, overall, the Lilo and Stitch TV series, it's amazing. A memorable, nostalgic gem of the Disney Channel. What more do I have to say? Okay, so, as always, now that I've finished with the first things I've had to say, my thoughts, Now, read the description / the story. Picking up where the 2002 Walt Disney movie hit left off, this animated series chronicles, the further adventures of renegade scientist Dr. Jumba Jookipa's beloved experiment 626, gotta slow down, who is now living happily as Lilo's alien buddy. Stitch, the previous 626 experiment, became activated when submerged in water. And, like Stitch, each experiment has its own terrible talent. Lilo and Stitch's mission is to catch Stitch's cousins before they fall into the clutches of the wrongdoers and redirect them to live productively. Okay, so now getting into the show itself, and I'm of course not going to talk about every single episode of the show, okay? I will highlight some. But also, of course, talk about some of the characters and, talk some about the crossover episodes. Not to mention, I will definitely talk about some episodes where it did not involve them going after an experiment. There were a few standalone episodes that did not involve them going after an experiment, so But just some of the episodes that I, of course, like to highlight. Well, I think, the big ones that I can think of, and which, by the way, being some of the first episodes of Season 2, would have to be, say, Episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3, Clip, and Episode 4, Mr. Stenchy. Now, in Episode 3, Clip, well, because we have this experiment who likes to trim, cut, and gobble up people's hair. And there's a moment where, after, Myrtle insults Lilo and so on, well, Lilo feels that Myrtle needs to be punished. And when they do capture Clip, well, because they take Clip to Myrtle's house and by planning to have her be completely bald. But that doesn't go as planned when Clip then goes for, instead of going for Myrtle, goes for Myrtle's mother. Jeez. Also, apparently, Jumba, he used to have hair, but when he created that experiment ate all of his hair. And, eventually, Lilo and Stitch, along with Jumba, they would go to apologize to Myrtle's mother, and even out of nowhere, Jumba would get his hair back. But, then it starts to get out of hand when Clip becomes a humongous hairball. And, Gantu, of course, trying to go after the experiment but failing. And, when he's running away from the experiment, he wounds up, in this, hula show or something and, participating in a hula dance, and, it's funny. But eventually, they managed to take down and stop Clip and find the rightful place for him, and that being at a barber shop. And, Clip doing a great job at cutting people's hairs in specific styles and looks. Even when Jumba, he decides to give up his hair, and, back to how it looks. And, that being a good look for Jumba. With just a few strings of hair, but Okay, in Episode 4, Mr. Stenchy, because, and by the way, if any of you, by any chance, like me and my family, ever had the interactive DVD board game of Lilo and Stitch, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Episodes 3 and 4 of Season 1 are included, because, 2 episodes of Lilo and Stitch are on the menu of that game, and that being, episodes 3 and 4 of Season 1, so But, anyways, so, for Episode 4, Mr. Stenchy, because, the experiment that they caught, which, being named, Mr. Stenchy, and by the way, because, I'm, of course, not gonna name, their experiment numbers, because, how can I really remember that? Mr. Stenchy's, and it is in the description, because Mr. Stenchy's experiment number is 254, so Mr. Stenchy, after having already been captured by Lilo and Stitch, in the good way, of course, well, Lilo finding Mr. Stenchy very cute, even pointing this out to Myrtle and her friends, that Mr. Stenchy is cuter than a potato, and Stitch, he becomes very jealous of Mr. Stinchy because, well, Stitch is Lilo's dog, and it seems like, Mr. Stinchy's, like, taking Stitch's place, but not really, just, And, hopefully, like, for Lilo, she can make a good impression towards Myrtle and the others with Mr. Stinchy. But, of course, like, when the first time they come for a tea party, Stitch, interrupts that, but, yeah. And, well, when at one point Jumba, Pleakley, Nani, and Lilo, they all head out for the evening, Stitch staying behind with Mr. Stinchy, and when Gantu, trying to go after Mr. Stinchy, Stitch allows Gantu to find and locate Mr. Stinchy. Yeah, even Gantu, when realizing that, the little trot, as he calls him, was jealous of Mr. Stinchy, and Gantu having a like for Mr. Stinchy, and this causes 625, the sandwich-eating experiment, of course, to be jealous towards Mr. Stinchy. Yeah. I mean, since when did, like, when was there a moment between 625 and Gantu? Why is 625 all of a sudden, but yeah, in the end, because Stitch at one point does feel very bad for the capturing of Mr. Stinchy, and he takes it upon himself to go rescue Mr. Stinchy. Lilo does find out about this, and with her, Jumba and Pleakley, they go to Gantu's ship, and yeah. And because, Mr. Stinchy does at one point want to stay with Gantu, because with how Stitch treated Mr. Stinchy, and Lilo finding out about this and assuring Stitch that Mr. Stinchy can't replace Stitch, yeah. Also, Jumba was very hesitant on sending Mr. Stinchy on a rocket and out of Earth's orbit because, and when we find out that apparently, and why Mr. Stinchy has that name specifically, well, because letting out a huge bad stench, but apparently Pleakley likes that smell. It reminds me of my first date, and yeah, even Gantu can't stand it, and just, yeah. So eventually, yeah, when Jumba did build a rocket for Mr. Stinchy, the location where Mr. Stinchy's gonna go to is, well, Pleakley's home planet. That's perfect. Finding the right place for Mr. Stinchy, yeah. But those two episodes, being some of the first episodes of Season 1, they are some pretty good ones, and definitely one of the top best episodes for the series, wouldn't you say so? But yeah. And some of the others, like, because, like, one episode that has this experiment who makes waves, which being experiment 520, being named Cannonball. One episode where we have this experiment who looks exactly like a dog, and the dog would be named, I believe, Yapper, so, and apparently, because, the dog would turn out to be Myrtle's pet and such, eventually, because she would get a pet who is an experiment. And there's one episode where, basically, we have these two experiments, which are 501 and 502, and they're basically referred to as yin-yang. One experiment that provides water, and one that does hot lava and fire and such. Yeah, that was another pretty good one. And even, like, David having a prominent part in that, and the whole thing of yin-yang and such, but yeah. And another episode, which being having to do with experiment 601, and that being the experiment called Kicks. That was another good one too. This boxing, fighting, strong, muscular experiment that Stitch takes on. Even Jumba's no match for that experiment. Or there's another episode where we have a spooky, scary experiment, which being experiment 300, and, well, as I just said the name, Spooky, yes. That was another good one, too. And Spooky's design, because he looks cute and innocent, but then he would, like, turn himself very scary and with claws, just, yeah. And also, another episode, which being with Experiment 222, which being named Poxy. Because organisms and, microscopic organisms and such. That was another good one, too. And there's another episode, which, by the way, it was one of these episodes that I actually watched, doing a bit of a rewatch, and that being Fibber. And yeah, experiment 32. This loudly beeping experiment anybody who says a lie, he beeps. And talk about bad timing, because Pleakley's family gets in contact with Pleakley because, well, you know, Pleakley is to find a wife and such, you know, golly, because that was an interesting episode. And there's another episode, which, yeah, I remember when watching this on Disney Channel, I saw this a good chunk of times, and that being, Elastico, if I'm even saying that right, this, clown experiment. Yeah, I remember seeing that a good chunk of times on Disney Channel. And yeah, again, like I said, I'm not going to be talking about every single episode, because then we'd be here technically all day. But, yeah, and also, yeah, this was another pretty good one, too. Episode 27 in Season 1, Experiment 458, which would be named Finder. Yeah, this was a good one, because at one point, Dr. Jacques von Hamsterville, I didn't talk about Hamsterville until now, because Hamsterville's presence at times in this show, of course, he's always, you know, giving Gantu a hard time and will not let Gantu rest until each and every single experiment is captured. Even when a few times in the show he does fire Gantu, but rehires him. So at one point, Hamsterville, and he did this a few times in the show, where he would escape prison. And in this episode, yeah, he managed to escape prison. The Grand Councilwoman, this is the only episode where the Grand Councilwoman appears. And she's asked and hired Jumba and Pleakley to go and find Hamsterville. And luckily, this experiment that they found is the perfect one to find and locate Finder, because whenever someone asks, like, you know, where could it be, or where's this item and such, Finder is on the job immediately. And so yeah, Finder is the perfect solution to locate and find Hamsterville, who does end up on Earth. But then, of course, you know, we have Myrtle, who, you know, is trying to find a pet and to beat, and to, you know, match against Lilo and such, you know. And she happens to spot Hamsterville and giving him a pet and, you know, saying that he's a gerbil and such. Just, it's funny. And Finder is another experiment that Stitch would grow jealous of, because Stitch, feeling that he is quite good at finding things. But even Lilo makes a good point that Finder was built to do that, find things. For Stitch, he's built to be destructive and so on, but at the same time, in a good way, and be very strong and such, you know, in action. But yeah, in the end, because, like, when, like, at one point, Gantu, after Jumba, Pleakley, Lilo, and Finder have had no luck, apparently, finding Hamsterville, the Grand Councilwoman then turns to Gantu, whom did get fired by Hamsterville, technically, so now Gantu asked to find and bring in Hamsterville, and he does so. But not only did he took Hamsterville, he accidentally took Myrtle. How did he not realize this? This beats me. But yeah, in the end, they managed to get Hamsterville, save Myrtle, take down Gantu in a ship, and yeah, the Grand Councilwoman, whom was going to reinstate Gantu back, you know, into the Galactic Federation as captain like he was before in the first movie, but yeah, but because he accidentally captured Myrtle, that doesn't come to be. And also not to mention that Myrtle was trying to find a pet because of a, you know, talent show of pets and such, you know. But anyways, yeah, but overall, that was a pretty good episode. By the way, because I didn't talk about the cast members, because, yeah, most of the entire cast from the movies, starting with, of course, the first Lilo and Stitch film, you know, do come back to reprise their roles, from young Davai Chase, Chris Sanders, of course, the late David Ogden Stiers, Kevin McDonald, and Kevin Michael Richardson, and Tia Carrere as Nani, with the exception of, say, David. David in the series, being voiced by the one and only talented D. Bradley Baker. And, you know, he was good. But some of the other returning cast members, young Liliana Mummy back as Myrtle, and also, like I said, being in one episode that I just talked about, Finder, the Grand Councilwoman. Yes, and the Grand Councilwoman, just for that one episode, once again being voiced by the late Zoe Caldwell. Yeah. Also, there was at least a few episodes where, yeah, Cobra did show up, and apparently, really, because only Vin Rams, he came back just for one episode. Huh. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, great to see that, yeah, for only one episode, Vin Rams, you know, came back, but, yeah. Oh, and that was for the spooky episode, okay. Well, I mean, there was another episode where, you know, Cobra did appear, and, that being in that one episode that has nothing to do with experiments, but, you know, until I get there, but yeah. Some of the other voice cast members, like, Nika Futterman, Jason Marsden, Jim Cummings, Kath Suzy, and as well as Billy West, John DiMaggio. Oh yeah, because whom John DiMaggio voices, until I mention that, yeah. Miranda Cosgrove also does two voices, and Bobcat Goldthwait, he voices Nosy. Yeah, this Nosy experiment, like, you know, and when he hears these certain things and just... oh, it's so funny. And besides, you know, it's Bobcat Goldthwait. Like, what's there not to enjoy about Bobcat Goldthwait, you know? Just seriously. But, yeah, and, you know, to talk more about that episode, because, yeah, Nosy, because, yeah, that episode was, again, that was pretty funny, and with that experiment being voiced by Bobcat Goldthwait, that was funny. But, oh, you know, yeah, because I'm searching through these episodes, like, let's talk about another character who did appear a good chunk of times in the series. Well, here it is, yeah, but just very quickly on Nosy, to finish up on Nosy, which being Experiment 199, aka Nosy. Nosy, knowing secrets and spreading out the secrets and such, just not keeping his mouth shut. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so one character I'd like to now bring up is Victoria. Yeah, Victoria, whom, well, is friends with Lilo, and even when Lilo's trying to make a good impression on Victoria, but Myrtle trying to show to Victoria, because, yeah, what Lilo is like, but just, yeah, Myrtle being Myrtle, of course. Yeah, the episodes that have Victoria, there's some pretty good ones, yeah, because, like, one episode where, yeah, there's this bat-like experiment, which Victoria finds scary at first, but in the end, she starts to like the bat and such. Yeah, and even the bat grows fondly with Victoria. And there's another episode where, yeah, right here, Swapper. This was another pretty good one. I remember it was one of these episodes I watched on Disney Channel. Yeah. Experiment 355, Swapper. It switches Lilo's brain with Stitch's, and then it happens to Jumba's brain with Pleakley's. And, like, bad timing, because there's a party happening where, yeah, trying to impress the new girl, which being Victoria. Yeah. So talk about bad timing. So now we have Lilo in Stitch's body, and we have Stitch in Lilo's body, and, you know, the same thing happens to Jumba and Pleakley's, I just said. Just, yeah. And especially for Jumba and Pleakley, not getting used to being switched in their bodies. Yeah. And also, the same thing happens. It first happens to Gantu and Hamsterville. Now Hamsterville being in Gantu's body, who now is going after the experiments, while Gantu, poor Gantu, being in Hamsterville's body and scratching off the fur because, you know, shedding and just, like, it's very itchy. Not used to that. It's pretty funny. And then there's another episode where, yeah, I mean, because in the end, yeah, of course, they get the experiment and their bodies are switched, just, yeah. And then there was another episode where, yeah, because having to do with a baby experiment and causing Stitch, Nani, Pleakley, and Jumba to turn into babies, yeah. Baby Friar, if I'm even saying that right, yeah. And this all started with Lilo, whom, you know, is too young to see a specific movie, and decides that, and even after capturing the experiment, turning Nani into a baby. But then it gets out of hand when then the experiment baby turns Jumba, Pleakley, then Stitch into babies. And eventually, yeah, managing to capture the experiment, stopping Gantu, and everyone turning back into adults and such. But poor Gantu, he gets turned into a baby in the end, but yeah. Okay, and to also bring this up, the 4 crossovers with Proud Family, American Dragon Jake Long, Kim Possible, and Recess. Yeah, those 4 crossovers, they were some good ones. I wonder, because I was kind of in that same territory too, where it's just like, mind-blowing, like, what? Like, yeah, weren't you as well? Because to see Lilo and Stitch cross path with these characters, and the fact because, these characters in different animation styles, but at the same time, they were fun and they worked. Yeah, it was awesome. Something that, that rarely happening in the world of Disney Channel and so on, you know what I mean? Because I think, like, Lilo and Stitch being the only show to do something like that. Maybe, like, I'm missing 1 or 2, but, anyways. But, yeah, those crossover episodes, they were fun. And some of the experiments that are in these episodes and, the characters from, say, Recess, Proud Family, American Dragon Jake Long, they come face-to-face with, except for Kim Possible. That episode not having anything to do with an experiment, because Dr. Draco has teamed up, both him and Shigo, they have teamed up with Dr. Hamsterville, and by capturing and bringing in Stitch, and, they gotta go and rescue Stitch, but how? But, luckily, Pleakley has the solution/answer. Call in Kim Possible, as well as Ron being there with her, as well as Rufus. And that's the thing, the episode being titled Rufus, Jump and Pleakley mistake Rufus for an experiment. God. And Lilo kind of feeling left out and such, like, because Kim telling Lilo that she's too little to be doing this kind of thing, but Kim, obviously, she has not seen what Lilo has done alongside with Stitch. But in the end, Lilo helping out Kim Possible and the others, and yeah, everything's good between Kim and Lilo. And yeah, just seeing, Draco, Dr. Draken, sorry, forgive me. God, I couldn't remember his name at first, but yeah, so Dr. Draken and Chico, because seeing them and, when they interact with Hamsterville is funny. And, like, the only time we don't get Gantu, so, yeah. But yeah, that episode was pretty good. And, and yeah, just like, and for, say, Proud Family, American Dragon, and Recess, yeah, they were good too. In fact, because, what goes on in them, and, yeah, because these 4 crossover episodes, they happen in Season 2, yeah. Because, like, the one with, the bat creature that Victoria then becomes attached to, yeah, that being Experiment 477, yeah, Snooty, yes. Okay, so yeah, the one episode with Proud Family, Spats, this experiment who causes, these, like, 2 people to argue with one another, just, yeah, that was a pretty interesting one, and yeah, seeing each of these characters, they get along, of course, but then for that to happen, just, yeah. But until they find a cure. They find a cure to get them to no longer fight and to be under what the experiment did to them. Penny and Lilo. So, yeah. Seeing Penny and Lilo team up, their chemistry, that's pretty good. Yeah, and also because the one with Recess, that episode, because having the Recess characters appear on Lilo and Stitch, this was after the show itself, Recess, came to an end. So that was pretty interesting. And hey, that was really cool for one last time to see the Recess characters in all their glory in Lilo and Stitch. Yeah. And yeah, because, like, in those episodes, like, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, because, like, the American Dragon Jake Long, the crossover with American Dragon Jake, like, that came before, say, the one with Proud Family. That was the first one I watched with Proud Family. This one with American Dragon, because morphing, because apparently this experiment Lilo, who tries to enter in the island skateboard competition in attempt to win the heart of one and only crush, Keone. Yeah, Keone he was a pretty interesting character, and geez, because Lilo trying to make a move on Keone, and for trying to get him to fall in love with her, and when, yeah, because, like, one episode where, yeah, using an experiment to use, and for Keone to fall in love with Lilo and such, just, yeah, that was a pretty good one, but, yeah, the one with the morphing, that was funny, and, because Lilo taking on, say, the appearance and look of Keone, but then to American Dragon, Jake, and even when, like, Jake, he mistaken Stitch for, like, an enemy creature or something. And apparently, Jake's dog being voiced by John DiMaggio, and yeah, because, like, the only two voices that John DiMaggio does in Lilo and Stitch is just, well, Dr. Draken and Foo Dog. Yeah, Lilo is freaked out by the sight of a talking dog. Like, why? Because don't you think she would get used to something like that by now? She's been around aliens. Why is she terrified at first of a talking dog? I don't know. Just is aliens not enough for her? Well. Anyways, and yeah, because that episode was pretty good, just having the characters of American Dragon, Jake, appear, you know, not to mention Jake's master, which being Lao Shai, has a crush on Mrs. Hazagwa, if I'm saying her last name right, but yeah, but just overall, like, those crossover episodes, they were pretty good. Oh, and another episode, because, again, not going to talk about every single episode, but yeah, okay, since I'm right here, because I remember this other episode where, yeah, we have this bug-like experiment, being Experiment 128, which being named Bugsby. Yeah. Lilo has made this Tropolis or something, you know, I don't know, I'm having trouble pronouncing it, but you know me sometimes. And this bug experiment, well, turning Lilo, Jumba, Pliggly, and Stitch into bugs, yeah. Not to mention that Nani is against bugs and doesn't want them in the house, and just, yeah, sisters being sisters. But yeah, that episode was pretty good. And another episode where Lilo, because, you know, wants to grow up fast, and yeah, because using this experiment, which being named Skip. Yeah, the experiment number being 89, and when that experiment is captured, using Skip to have Lilo skip a whole 10 years, but it ends badly, because, you know, time changing, and, well, even, like, say, at one point, Hamsterville taking over Earth, and just, yeah, that's not good. But that was pretty interesting, and the fact, you know, we see a grown-up Lilo. Well, and, you know, the fact that we would get those, anime Lilo and Stitch shows, we would see adult Lilo, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, and also, you know, there was this other episode where we had these two experiments whom were fugitives. That was a pretty interesting one, too. And, yeah, okay, a few more, and then, yeah, then I'll end things off, because the next one I want to talk about is one of my favorites, that being Remy. And, yeah, basically, this experiment who has the capability to make people's dreams into nightmares and such, entering in their dreams and making them, you know, bad dreams, nightmares. And in this episode, well, Lilo is very sad because it's the day / anniversary when they became a broken family, Lilo and Nani, when they sadly lost their parents. And Lilo taking a nap, and, well, bad timing, because when the experiment is unleashed, it then finds its way to Lilo, entering into Lilo, Jumba, Pliggly, and Stitch, taking it upon themselves to go inside of Lilo in her dreams and to get this experiment before things go wrong, terribly wrong. Like, if at any point Lilo is to wake up, they will be stuck in Lilo's dreams forever, even when, like, Nani, she's trying, throughout this episode, she's trying to figure out, like, how to cheer up Lilo and thanks to Mrs. What's-Her-Face, helps out Nani with, mentioning a special song, and Nani recognizing the song, and when she goes to see Lilo, trying to wake her up, but thankfully Plinkly is able to get back and warn Nani on what's going on. And I love Nani's response, I can't leave you all alone for, a few minutes or such. And so, in order to get Lilo to go back to sleep, because she's barely about to wake, Nani's singing that special song, and overall, that episode was pretty good. It's one of my favorites, and it was another one of those that I watched on Disney Channel, and, of course it ends on a happy note. When it starts to get out of hand, all of Lilo's dreams are turning into nightmares, and technically, Lilo, in her dream, is there, interacting with Jumba, Pleakley, and Stitch, and starting to realize that they're actually there, and what they're dealing with. And, in the end, when looking at a picture of Lilo, Nani, and their parents by, a tree, that cheers up Lilo. She starts to laugh, and everything's back to normal in the world of her dreams, and they manage to capture the experiment. Yeah, that was a good episode. And yes, now let's talk about Angel. Yes, Angel. Oh boy, because the 2 episodes that center on Angel were some pretty interesting ones. Because, we have this experiment who almost looks like Stitch, but not really. Especially since she's pink, and Tara Strong voicing Angel. Here it is, from Season 1, Episode 30, Angel. Description / the story. Stitch falls for Experiment 624, because, she comes before, say, 625 and 626. So anyways, not knowing that Angel can turn people from good to bad with her singing, she's part of one of Hamsterville's plots to turn all the experiments bad. And she does so, singing this beautiful song which turns them into bad, even on Jumba. I mean, eventually Lilo manages to snap Jumba out of it, but apparently it has no effect on Stitch. And Stitch, when realizing, when they do find out, even when Lilo tries to tell Stitch that Angel's a bad influence, eventually, they manage to stop Angel, and, well, even in the end, Angel redeems herself by singing the song backwards. Basically, singing it backwards, turning them from bad back to good. Also, there was a funny moment where, recording Angel's song, because this happens in the next episode, because in the end, Angel is taken and captured by Gantu, and that's the last we see of her for now, until in Season 2. Because the attempt to rescue Angel, and at a certain point, Stitch becomes depressed because, not, being separated from whom he loved so much. And that being Episode 25, which actually was the second to last episode. I kind of feel like this doesn't seem like a perfect fit to end off the series. Don't you think it seems like it? Because, I don't know. Because apparently after this, the last episode, which being Episode 26, Link, that I remember watching. It was featured on the bonus features of Leroy and Stitch. Well, apparently, because, that is the last episode of the series. But, I don't know, I just feel like Episode 25, that seems like a perfect fit to end off the show. But, So, Episode 25, Snafu, if I'm saying that right. Description / the story. Nosy escapes Gantu's secret lair and tells Lilo and Stitch, Nosy, tells Lilo and Stitch that he and other experiments are being held captive there, leading Stitch to launch a rescue mission when he learns Angel is among them. Now, there were a few times in the series where, some of the experiments, not all of them, were taken in by Gantu, Nosy being one of them. So, now comes the time where the experiments, including Angel, have to be rescued. And I was going to mention this because, in this episode, because Hamsterville orders Gantu to have Angel's song be heard from all the other experiments that roam around the island to turn them into bad. And by doing so, 625 makes a move on Angel, wanting her to sing her song, but being backwards, and recording it on tape being hidden in these pile of flowers. And by reversing it, yes, and 625 was going to play it in this, like, ice cream truck, but instead, he's playing, what's playing instead is this karaoke tape that Gantu did of him singing. Poor Gantu. Can't catch a break, sadly. Yeah. But, yeah. Like, Lilo then, again, at a certain point, like, Lilo and Stitch forming a rescue mission, and by bringing in some experiments to go and rescue Angel and the others, and, yeah. And, one of the main experiments being, Snafu. Yeah. Yeah, he was a pretty cool experiment, but, yeah. You know, just in the end, they managed to rescue Angel and the other experiments, and again, didn't it seem like a fitting way for that being the last episode? I'm just saying, yeah. Okay, so any other... Oh, you know, because, remember that, the one episode I did bring up, like, these two fugitive experiments, they're basically the Bonnie and Clyde of Lilo and Stitch. They're the Bonnie and Clyde experiments, best way to put at it. Yes, here it is, because, yeah, they were pretty cool experiments. I'll mention this too, yeah. Which being episode 34 of season 1, Bonnie and Clyde. Okay, description / the story. Officer Kayako, who, yeah, does appear a few times in this show, kind of got on my nerves a little, because, yeah, intervening and stopping Lilo from doing certain things is, you know. Yeah, accidentally activates 2 robbing experiments who go on an island-wide criminal spree. At first, Lilo and Stitch think it's fun, but then things go too far. Now, these 2 are pretty cool ones, and not to mention that Clyde, yes, has a weapon to his arm. Yeah, can like a cannon arm. That's pretty cool. I presume like he must have lost his arm and then, yeah. But that episode was pretty good. With what that had to offer, like, and literally, those 2 experiments being named Bonnie and Clyde. Wow, just, yeah. Okay, oh yes, and have to mention this too, because, you know, like, some episodes that don't have to do with an experiment. Like, yeah, episode 36 in season 1, Bad Stitch. Description / the story, reconciling that he is still being destructive. Stitch tries to help pay a mass of bills that Nani has for the damage he has caused, but he ends up in the hands of arch-enemy Hamsterville. Yeah, like, there's this ad on TV for aliens, you know, to be cured or something, and Stitch going to see this doctor, but it turns out to be Hamsterville in disguise as this human doctor. And when Lilo, Jumba, and Pleakley discover this, yeah, they go and try to help and stop Stitch from what he's going to do. But they're apparently too late because Stitch, now turning back into the monstrous, destructive experiment that he was from the start of the first movie. But thankfully, that doesn't last long when Lilo shows that she doesn't want to hurt Stitch, even when throwing away like a water bottle, you know, spray bottle, yeah. That episode was pretty good, yeah. Even when, yeah, in that episode, Hamsterville fired Gantu, but was rehired in the end, yeah. Okay, and the other one, like, oh, yeah, the one I mentioned about this experiment making people fall in love with one another, yeah. I'm not going to bother because, yeah, I know I'm butchering it, but yeah. This episode was pretty good because, as I said, Lilo having a crush on Keone, wanting Keone to fall in love with Lilo, and yeah, this hummingbird experiment pecks someone by the back of their head and they fall in love with whoever they see. It was so funny because, like, say, we have, like, say, Nani falling in love with Gantu at one point, or these group of people, along with Keone, falling in love with Pleakley. Like, good God, like, so much happening in that episode, but hilarious at the same time. Even when, yeah, it happens to Hamsterville, that experiment is given to Gantu, and Gantu's sending it to Hamsterville, it picks Hamsterville, and Hamsterville falling in love with Gantu. I think I love you! Oh, it was funny. Yeah. Anyways, so, Yeah, so that episode was pretty, like, those episodes are pretty good too. And the one where, yeah, because, like, this has to do with an asteroid. Yes, right here, episode 20 in season 1. The asteroid. Description / the story. An asteroid is on a collision course with Earth, and Lilo is determined to do something about it, and eventually, they steer it away using the hyperdrive from Jumba's ship. Though, that means he can't return home. Yeah, this episode was pretty interesting because Lilo and Stitch finding out about this when Cobra is under investigation, and that apparently there will be this incoming asteroid, and Lilo and Stitch wants to do something about this, trying to invite these people on the island to be evacuated. Only a few experiments came, and this surfer dude, yeah, not enough. And seriously, not all the experiments? Surely they would believe, but oh well. And yeah, them taking it upon themselves to evacuate, and even when, it leads to them wanting to do something about this, to stop this asteroid from hitting. And what they discover on this asteroid, this alien creature whom lives on this asteroid, it's home, and, you know, now Lilo wants the asteroid to be moved, and by doing so, like, in the end, they succeed on saving the Earth, and for the asteroid to go to a different direction, a different course. Yeah. And yeah, this being another episode where we get Cobra, so yeah. But that episode was pretty good too. Yeah. And let's go ahead, yeah, talk about the last episode of the series, and yeah. Okay, so, and as I did bring up earlier, episode 26, which, again, I feel that episode 25, it felt like a perfect way to end off the show. Again, don't you think? But it's just how it is, you know. So, episode 26, Link. Yeah, this was a pretty interesting one, because this experiment that can squirt goo and causing, like, how many people it is, like, to get stuck and tangled together. And, yeah, Lilo and Myrtle are stuck together, and then it happens to Jumba and Pleakley, then it happens to Nani and Stitch, and with different things that's going on with each of them. Like, Lilo and Myrtle are doing this treasure hunt, and Nani, she's supposed to drive a speeding boat, you know, for people to, you know, and then eventually, Nani and Stitch discover that mud is the answer to get the goo off. Jumba and Pleakley, they were gonna, like, frickin' use a laser or something, but no, mud is the answer. And yet, you know, having Gantu be there, trying to capture the experiment, and yeah. Yeah, that episode being the final episode of the show, it was pretty good. Again, I stand by saying that episode 25 seems like the perfect finale of the show altogether, but, you know. But, yeah, you know, I could just go on talking about the Lilo and Stitch show. I could, but, yeah. Yeah, so, the Lilo and Stitch TV series, it's a memorable, nostalgic, Disney animated show gem from the early 2000s, without a doubt. Everything from beginning to end. Seasons 1 and 2, the stories, and all the experiments that they come face-to-face with, trying to get them to, you know, first from going bad to good, finding their rightful place on the island, Ohana, and having hilarious moments, emotional moments, touching moments, and yeah, the chemistry from these characters, the 4 crossover episodes, really cool experiments that we get in these episodes, a few episodes that do not center on an experiment, and yeah, just what more do I have to say? The Lilo and Stitch TV series. Excellent, yeah. And I'm giving the Lilo and Stitch TV series, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for the Lilo and Stitch TV series. And what about you guys? What did you think of the Lilo and Stitch TV series itself? What are your fondest memories of the show? The first time you watched it, and like me, having watched it on the good old days of Disney Channel, what were some of your favorite episodes? Which episodes do you remember watching on Disney Channel? Like, I'm sure a lot of you did see some of those crossover episodes. Yeah. And which one stuck to you the most? And having to rewatch it now, and thanks to Disney Plus, yeah, how does it feel to revisit this show and the episodes you remembered watching and they stuck with you like me? Just, yeah. Overall, and also, yeah, which are some of your favorite experiments? That too, but yeah, overall, what do you think of the Lilo and Stitch TV series itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Lilo and Stitch TV series. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. Take care, and peace out. Toki Papawa!